Think we're good? Yeah, okay, good. All right, alors bonsoir, membres du conseil, bonsoir à l'équipe et ainsi que tous les résidents qui sont ici devant nous ce soir. Welcome everyone to our August 26th Township Council meeting. So roll call, all members of council are present. Territorial acknowledgement, statement, and moment of reflection.
Nous reconnaissons que nous sommes sur le territoire non cédé des Anishinaabe et les terres traditionnelles des peuples Haudenosaunee, Kanien'kehá:ka et Huron-Wendat. Nous reconnaissons notre obligation commune de respecter, d'honorer et de préserver ces terres les ressources naturelles qu'elles contiennent.
Merci, Conseillère Deakin. Whereas Canada is founded upon the principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law, let us take a moment of personal reflection. O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command, car ton bras sait porter l'épée, il sait porter la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Merci beaucoup. All right, item 4. Additions, deletions, or amendments. So I've got a couple here. So 11A, the resolution will be adopted at 11A instead of 15B. Madame Caméré, do we need a mover and seconder on that? No, c'est bon. And I have an addition, I have 18A, Councillor Deakin, Industrial Park Update. Members of council, any other additions, deletions, or amendments to speak to? Seeing, hearing none, thank you very much. So I'll need a mover to adopt the agenda. Moved by Councillor Lauren, seconded by Councillor Deakin. All in favor? The agenda is, the motion is approved as presented. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, just to say it was as amended.
As amended.
Yep. So
Thank
that
you.
was, sorry, the mover was?
Councillor Lauren
Lauren.
and Councillor Deakin,
Okay.
seconder.
Thank you.
All right, number 6, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Hearing and seeing none, thank you. We go to item number 7, l'adoption des procès-verbaux, procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire du Conseil du 24 juin. Le procès-verbal de la séance extraordinaire du Conseil du 22 juin, motion pour approuver les procès-verbaux tels que présentés. Et ça, that's moved by Councillor Lalonde, seconded by Councillor Deakin. All in favor? Thank you. All right, moving to number 8, presentations. We don't have any. Delegations, we don't have any. And moving to number 10, consent items. So motion that all items listed under consent items be received as presented. So I need a mover. Moved by Councillor Lauren, seconded by Councillor Deakin. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. Okay. So moving to 15A. Apologies, this is, there we go. Okay, so 15A, I've noticed a motion presented by Councillor Jamie Lauren, subject renaming of the north and south baseball fields in Russell. And this was moved by Councillor Lauren, seconded by Marc Lalonde, Councillor Lalonde. So at this stage, we just need to put it on the table. So moved by Councillor Lauren, seconded by Councillor Lalonde. Okay, motion's on the table. Councillor Lauren.
Thank you very much. So I put this on the agenda about a year ago. It's taken until now for us to be able to bring it back, and I'd like to add it. I'd like to make an amendment to it for a few different reasons, and you'll understand in the actual amendment one of the main reasons of that. So, and I think I've shared it with the clerk as well, so that you don't have to type an immense amount of information. So what I'd like the amendment to be is that the Township of Russell develops a ball field naming convention standard for all of the ball diamonds that they own or manage, and that the naming convention of these fields be terrain, name of recipient, field. Therefore, be it resolved that the two ball diamonds in Russell be known as Terrain Gord Saunders Field and Terrain Don Graham Field, and that the Families Agricultural Society, the Russell Agricultural Society, the Lions Club of Russell, and the public be invited to the official unveiling of these signs once the administration and the Ag Society have determined a proper location for the placements of the signs. And be it further resolved that Council for the Township of Russell direct the administration to also update the signs at the Emblem Ball Diamonds near the Emblem Arena following the same naming convention mentioned above. So I'll move that amendment.
Thank you. And so that amendment is moved and is seconded by Councillor Lalonde.
And if I can also add, Mr. Mayor?
Yes?
So, you know, we didn't get to talk about this at the last, at the meeting a year ago because we can't speak to it when it's being presented at that time. But I'd just like to state some of the reasoning behind the naming of these two ball diamonds is to recognize the over 100 years of public service and public volunteer and commitment to this community that these two gentlemen gave to us. So that is the main reason why I'm making this recommendation. I'm urging council to support this motion. Thank you. And I would also like to recognize the Saunders family in the audience today. And I don't know if the Graham family is here or not, because I know they're out of town, but I'm told that they will be at the naming ceremony should council approve it.
Thank you. And just to add a little further context to this, so this was also went through the Parks and Rec Committee and was supported at the Parks and Rec Committee as well. So,
and also to that, the Russell Ag Society, the Lions Club also offered their support to this.
fantastic. All right, so we have an amendment on the table, and so we'll proceed to the vote as amended. So I need a mover. Oh, no, sorry, the vote, sorry, as amended. So for the amendment? Yeah, all good?
Just the amendment.
Yeah. Okay, so now the resolution as amended? Yeah. So now I have vote for the resolution as amended. All in favor? Thank you. That is passed. Thank you very much, Councillor Lauren. Thank you.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Moving to item 19A, Wood ED Engineer Report, and that will be presented by Monsieur Bourgon.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. So this evening, following the Drainage Act, we need to proceed with a meeting to consider. It's the relocation of the Wood ED main drain. So tonight we have Monica Shade with us. She's the engineer who prepared the report, and she'll do a quick presentation. And also just to remind people in the audience that the homeowner directly affected by or in the watershed of that drain are the only ones that can ask questions or provide comments on that topic.
Merci, Monsieur Bourgon. Councillor Lauren?
Sorry, before we proceed to the next meeting, this item, can I just make one comment just for the family so that they know what just happened and what's going to happen next with that
Councillor.
resolution?
Yeah, go ahead.
So council has now approved that recommendation. So those ball fields will be named after Mr. Saunders and Mr. Graham. Staff and the Ag Society will be working out the details of the sign and where to place it. And you will be contacted at a later date when the unveiling of those will come. So thank you very much for coming out tonight for that. And you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting because the resolution has already been passed by council. So thank you very much. Sorry, I just wanted to make
No
sure.
problem. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for coming. We look forward to the unveiling. We'll see you there. All right, thank you, Councillor Lauren. Mr. Bourgon?
So a year ago, council did an appointment to appoint the engineer to start working on that engineer report. So I'll invite Monica to do the quick presentation.
Merci. Good evening.
So, good evening. Thank you for your attendance at this evening's meeting to consider for the Wood Edie Main Drain and West Branch. My name is Monica Shade, and I'm a licensed professional engineer with Shade Group, Inc. I was appointed by the Township of Russell to prepare an engineer's report under Section 78 of the Drainage Act. Section 78 of the Drainage Act speaks to major improvements, which includes any updates and changes made to the drain previously adopted under the Drainage Act. This evening's presentation will include an introduction on the purpose of this meeting, a brief history of the existing drainage system, the reason this process was initiated, a summary of my engineer's report, and an overview of what the next steps will be in the process of adopting the new report. The engineer's report was formally submitted to the Township on July 30th, 2024. The municipality circulated an invitation to this meeting to all of those within the watershed shortly thereafter. The engineer's report was made available to landowners by way of a digital link or a request for a paper copy if so desired. This meeting is to formally present the report and allow members of council and affected landowners an opportunity to ask questions and have discussion before provisionally adopting the report. Following this input, council will decide if the project should proceed or if there's any reason the report would be sent back for further revision. Assuming the decision is to proceed, the report would be provisionally adopted by 2 readings of bylaw before proceeding to the next steps under the Drainage Act. The current governing report for the Wood Edie Main Drain and West Branch was adopted in 1955 and was noted as a maintenance and improvement report. The 1955 engineer's report noted that the initial construction of the drain was in 1902. Under the 1955 engineer's report, the outlet to the Wood Edie Main Drain was understood to have been the Sparks branch of the Champagne Creek Drain. However, an update was completed to the East Branch in 1977, and under that report, a part of the main drain was renamed as the East Branch. With that, the current governing outlet for the main drain is to be the East Branch, while the West Branch outlets to the main drain. The Wood Edie Main Drain, as designed under the current report, is approximately 2.55 kilometers long, and the West Branch is approximately 1 kilometer long. A recent update was completed by Robinson Consultants to the East Branch, and that project is entirely separate from that being presented this evening. So this slide provides an overview of the watershed for the Wood Edie Main Drain and West Branch. The pink line represents the watershed boundary, while the blue solid line is the alignment of the Wood Edie Main Drain. The initial reasoning for the initiation of the Section 78 process was to undertake a realignment of part of the system through township-owned lands that are slated for development. The red dashed line shows the proposed realigned channel at the upstream end of the main drain on the left-hand side of the screen, while the gray line shows the alignment to be abandoned. The West Branch watershed is denoted by the orange dashed line, and the branch itself is shown as the dashed blue line coming from the bottom of the page going upwards. The black dashed line at the absolute top of the screen is the East Branch of the Wood Edie Drain. Do the next slide. Thank you. The project was initiated by the Township primarily to undertake a realignment of the drain to accommodate future development. At the upstream limits of the drain, the current alignment zigzags along previous tree lines, and the Township requested that this stretch of drain be straightened to allow for more efficient future development. The updated report also includes the new road crossing culvert under what will eventually be an extension of the Township Road, Aymard Street. The dashed cyan line shows the current alignment, while the red dashed line is the proposed new alignment. As the current governing report for the Wood Edie main drain dates back to 1955, it was determined that an update to the entirety of the Wood Edie main drain engineer's report was most cost-effective to undertake at this time, since updates were already underway. This includes a review of the downstream culverts and the channel cross-section to review whether or not the channel was adequate to meet current standards. Finally, since the improvements were underway, the initiation also allowed for updates to the assessment schedules for both the West Branch and main drain to ensure that future maintenance billings would be fair and equitable. Next slide. An on-site meeting was held at the Camille Piche Community Center on October 18th, 2023, in fitting with the requirements of the Drainage Act. The on-site meeting served as an opportunity to inform landowners of the requests for improvements and inquire if landowners had any further requests for improvements, issues with flooding, or other concerns with the existing adopted system. As part of the process, Shade Group staff conducted an engineer's survey of the lands where the realignment were proposed and of the remaining alignment of the Wood Edie main drain to its outlet at the East Branch. Staff prepared drawings, calculations, and an engineer's report, which was submitted to South Nation Conservation Authority and Fisheries and Oceans Canada for review, comment, permitting where applicable. A permit was issued by South Nation Conservation Authority under the Conservation Authorities Act, as watercourses are regulated under the Conservation Authorities Act. A letter of advice was issued by Department of Fisheries and Oceans, or Canada, Fisheries and Oceans Canada, as the project is not expected to result in the harm to fish or fish habitat. Fisheries Act authorization under the Fisheries Act was not required. Specifications from SNCA and DFO were incorporated into the report where necessary, and the final submission of the engineer's report includes copies of both the letter of advice and the permit. Next slide. In the engineer's report, you'll find a description of the reasoning for the initiation of the Section 78 major improvement process, as driven primarily by the request for the realignment. In addition to the engineering details specific to the realignment, the report includes a full set of new plan and profile drawings for the main drain, as well as a maintenance plan which outlines recommended maintenance based on field observations. The report also includes an erosion and sediment control plan which recommends permanent and temporary measures to facilitate the ongoing protection of the watercourse. The erosion and sediment control plan was prepared as it is a specific requirement from the Conservation Authority to acquire permitting for any works in and around watercourses. The report also includes updated hydrologic and hydraulic calculations to verify and confirm that the open channel and various culverts have been appropriately sized to meet current design standards. Finally, the report also includes an updated assessment schedule for the Wood Edie main drain and the West Branch. Upon completion of my presentation, members of council and affected landowners will be given an opportunity to ask questions. Following the question and answer period, council will decide if the project will proceed or if the report should be sent back for further edits or additions. Assuming the project proceeds, the report would be provisionally adopted by 2 readings of bylaw. The bylaw would then be circulated to those within the watershed, along with an invitation to the Court of Revision. Next slide. Thank you. The Court of Revision is the first of 3 opportunities for appeals in the Drainage Act process. Each appeals body hears different types of appeals. The Court of Revision is held at a municipal level and allows landowners an opportunity to submit appeals concerning their assessments. Tribunal would hear appeals about technical aspects of the project, while the referee would hear appeals on legal aspects of the work. Tribunal hearings and referee appeals are only scheduled if needed, whereas a sitting of the Court of Revision will be scheduled regardless. If you are considering appealing, please ensure that the appropriate paperwork is submitted in time to the clerk. Note that appeals on assessment must be submitted 10 days in advance of the sitting of the Court of Revision and must be submitted in writing to the clerk. If you need help filing an appeal, Township staff can assist. If you have concerns or questions about the project that you wish to discuss privately, myself or Sean, the drainage superintendent, are available to discuss. As appeals can add significant cost and delays to a project, we are always looking for ways to address questions and concerns as much as we can before going down the formal appeals route. So that concludes my presentation, and I'll pass it back to council for the question period. If you do have specific questions about your property, such as how your assessment was calculated, or further discussion about what your anticipated assessment would be, I'd be happy to arrange for a private phone call or a brief discussion after today's meeting.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shade. So questions from members of council? Councillor Lauren?
Just from a costing perspective,
Yep.
is each affected resident expected to pay, or are they getting something?
That's a messy question. So this project, because it has multiple pieces to it, so part of it is development driven. So the realignment and the work that we've done for updating the engineer's report, the municipality has agreed to take the costs. The future maintenance that would be done, that would be paid for by each of the individual landowners in the apportionments outlined in my report. So that's in fitting with the process of the Drainage Act. Does that make sense? So right now, today, so first of all, this has a few more steps
Right.
until it's adopted, but once it's adopted, the landowners will not get a bill for the work that I have done, but Sean does have plans, from what I understand, to do maintenance on the downstream section. So you have the realignment and then you have the rest of the channel. So there is maintenance required on the rest of the channel, and landowners will be paying an apportionment of that maintenance work, as they would have been doing to date since the report was originally adopted in 1902.
Okay. And how much does it differ from what they're paying today?
I don't have, what someone's maintenance before versus today.
Yeah.
I start my assessment schedules from scratch. I don't do a side-by-side comparison unless somebody
So
specifically
maybe that's
wants to
maybe that's a
know.
question for staff then? Do we
It-
know?
it-
Like, is this from 1955 we're talking, or has there been maintenance costs since then?
Mr. Bourgon?
Well, there's been maintenance done over the years
Right.
at some point. So the property owner paid their portion, how they were assessed, like that percentage.
Okay. So the proposed changes that we have in the maintenance schedule going forward, how does that differ in cost?
Well, in cost, I mean, the maintenance is always more and more expensive, like anything else. But without looking at how it's split, I would say the ratio or the percentage per property will likely be similar without having looked at both side by side.
Merci. Follow-up, Councillor Lauren?
Yeah, I mean, we're being asked, at least I'm being asked to approve this without knowing what I'm putting in terms of cost on the homeowner,
It's just-
other than the amounts that I see in
But
the,
this is the standard process for the Drainage Act. So the Drainage Act apportions costs to landowners for maintenance and upkeep of a system. That's standard Drainage Act process. But in terms of having a crystal ball to know how much they're gonna pay for, the report holds in perpetuity moving forward until an update is done. So if maintenance needs to get done, it gets assessed to the landowners in the same apportionment. So I have come up with what I believe the maintenance would cost based on standard market rates today, based on the recommendation plan that I have.
okay,
But Sean's next round of maintenance may only be a piece at a time. And when we started the project, Sean showed me what kind of work they've done over the past 10 years or so. And they've often only done stretches of it at a time. So even then, it's gonna vary. If you're only doing 100 meters or you're doing 2 kilometers, the cost of maintenance is gonna differ dramatically between those. So the bill that a landowner is gonna get is gonna differ from maintenance to maintenance. But maintenance is only typically done Sean, do you do it on a responsive nature for the most part? Yeah, so the drainage superintendents that I work with frequently, they acknowledge that they're not gonna just show up on your doorstep tomorrow and start redigging the ditch if nobody's asked for them to be there, because they acknowledge that the bill is held by those within the watershed. So it is in response to receiving requests for maintenance on a system that they are entitled to request maintenance on.
So the only outlet that the homeowner has then is to have a reassessment done, and that would have been at any point in time that since these were built, they would have to request that if they are not happy with what the percentage or the amount of what their assessment for their property
So
is.
they only have the opportunity to appeal like when the report is open like this. So if this report gets adopted, that carries forward, and if somebody sells their house and somebody else comes in and doesn't agree with the assessment, it's locked in. There's no way to appeal it once the report has been adopted. That's how the process of the Drainage Act works.
Okay, thank you very much for clarifying.
Thank you. Any other questions, members of council? Conseiller Lalonde.
Yeah, just to go back to the Drainage Act is governing all of this
Correct.
operation, as it has done for many decades, and the apportionment of each landowner's contribution to those costs is the same arrangement that's been on the books as well for all of that time. I remember that we had the presentation some time ago, the initial presentation of this, that explained those pieces and parts of the Drainage Act to us and to the public that was here, to make it clear that this is the opportunity now where if they are in disagreement with it, that it's speak now or forever hold your peace.
Merci. Anything to add, Monsieur Bourgon?
Non, rien de l'administration.
Okay, so I will turn it over to any affected landowners, if there are any questions from affected landowners. Yes, please come up to the lectern if you don't mind. Sorry, Ms. Shade there, and just, if you can just state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Greg Prin from 337 Edie Road. I'm a relatively new resident to the area, and so there's a lot of background information that I don't have. Just for clarification, what I wanted to ask is, if there's maintenance required anywhere along the ditch, I assume that assumes everybody whose land is affected by that ditch or that it touches. Is just the landowner where the maintenance is done paying for it, or is it proportioned out over all the people along the ditch as they're benefiting from the work that's being done in that area?
Okay, thank you for your question, Mr. Print, and welcome to the township, by the way. So
Thank you.
I'll let Ms. Shade respond.
So I do want to clarify, just in case you have a roadside ditch in front of your house, the roadside ditch wouldn't be applicable to any of this. It's only that blue line that's in the middle. So it's only the Wood Edie main drain that would be applicable to this. There's a lot of private ditches and all that out there. They don't necessarily automatically fall under the Drainage Act. But in terms of who pays for it, the Drainage Act specifies that anybody upstream of where the work is done pays for the work that's done. So if it just so happens that only the top end of the ditch is cleaned out, the pool of people who might be paying into that might be a little smaller. Right now, I believe the intention is to clean out pretty much the entirety of it, in which case everybody in the watershed is paying into those costs for maintenance in the apportionments that are outlined in the report, in the assessment schedules. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Still, yeah?
I don't understand why.
If I can just get you to come up, so because it's a public meeting, thank you.
I guess I don't understand why it's only upstream if benefits are going to be accrued to people downstream as well.
Ms. Shade?
So because water flows downhill, so if I clean out at the top end, the guy at the bottom end isn't getting any benefit out of that, because your water flows better at the top, but the guy at the bottom still flows the same if you don't touch it. So that's the logic behind it. I get it, in higher flow events, it might flush it out or do something like that, but unfortunately, the way the Drainage Act is written is that the upstream landowners are the ones that pay towards the system. So, and you don't have to just be on the drain itself. The watershed is often bigger than just those lands immediately touching the drain as well. So there are other people paying into it who may not even see the ditch, but they still pay into it because their water eventually reaches there.
One more question? Sure. Now's the time, so it's all good.
So I'm on a rather large property, it's about 100 acres, has a forest in the back, and we have numerous trails running through that area, and we've made improvements over the ditch, building 2 bridges that will, you know, we can take an ATV across. And I'm wondering if the ditch changes, or there has to be any improvements done which will require removing those bridges for whatever reason, do we get compensated for that?
Michelle?
So I believe I know which bridges you're talking about, and we may have talked to, I don't know, is it your wife maybe is at the on-site meeting. So what we discussed with her, because I know at least one of the bridges was also recently replaced. I prefer bridges from a hydrology standpoint over culverts, because the bridges go over top of the culvert rather than a culvert can kind of constrict flow. So what we had discussed is that when Sean's undertaking the maintenance, they'll work on either side of it. If there's anything that needs to be done, like let's say that there's a tree branch or something blocked underneath the bridge that he can't reach with the excavator or with the equipment that they have, that Sean would reach out. And Sean's fantastic about talking to landowners before he does the maintenance as well. So there's an open line of communication throughout this entire process as well. Sean's not going to go rip out your bridges tomorrow. We know they're there to stay. So.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions from affected landowners? Thank you very much, Ms. Shade. So seeing, hearing no more questions, any follow-up questions from members of council? Seeing, hearing none. Monsieur Bourgon, anything else? No? Okay, so we'll proceed to resolutions related to this item. So the first resolution, that council receives report ISPW 2024-15 dated August 26, 2024, and I need a mover and a seconder. That's moved by Councillor Deacon, seconded by Councillor Lalonde. All in favor? That is passed. Thank you. Second resolution, that council approves the proposed bylaw in the first and second reading to amend the Wood-Edie Municipal Drain, and that's moved by Councillor Lauren, seconded by Councillor Deacon. All in favor? And that is passed. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. Moving back to 11A, relocation of the Embrun Library Branch, report CSAS LIB 2024-01. And that's and that will be Monsieur Godin. Madame Séguin is here. Who is presenting? Monsieur Dagenet? Yeah. La parole est à vous, s'il vous plaît.
Merci, merci beaucoup, Monsieur le maire. Bonsoir, chers membres du Conseil. Donc, nous avons un rapport ce soir qui est le résultat d'une collaboration étroite entre la municipalité de Russell, la bibliothèque de Russell ainsi que la coop d'Embrun en ce qui concerne l'avenir de la succursale d'Embrun. Donc, je vais laisser la parole à M. Dagenet, le directeur des services corporatifs, pour nous donner l'intro au rapport, ainsi que Mme France Séguin-Couture, directrice générale de la bibliothèque de Russell, si elle veut également partager un petit mot.
Merci. M. Dagenet.
Bonsoir, chers membres du Conseil. En début d'année 2024, la coop Embrun nous a informé de son projet ambitieux de construire un bâtiment à 2 étages. Le rez-de-chaussée de ce bâtiment pourrait être un emplacement idéal pour relocaliser la succursale de la bibliothèque d'Embrun. Depuis, nous avons eu plusieurs réunions pour négocier les détails de cette proposition et nous avons préparé un rapport pour le Conseil lors de sa session à huis clos le 12 février. Ce rapport a présenté l'offre de la coop Embrun et fourni une analyse financière préliminaire. À la suite de cette discussion, le Conseil a recommandé d'avancer avec la coop d'Embrun pour rédiger une lettre d'intention. Voici les principaux éléments de cette lettre. La relocalisation est prévue pour septembre 2026 avec une surface de 5000 pieds carrés occupée au rez-de-chaussée. Le bail s'étendra sur 15 ans avec 4 options de renouvellement par tranche de 5 ans. Le loyer s'élève à 25 du pied carré pour un coût total initial de 1 875 000 payable en intégralité avant la prise de possession. Une garantie locative couvrant ce montant sera exigée avant la date de possession. Les prochaines étapes sont de finaliser le contrat de location avec la coop Embrun, obtenir des propositions pour les travaux d'aménagement et préparer une lettre d'intention pour la sous-location de l'espace à la bibliothèque. Nous prévoyons de vous fournir une mise à jour détaillée à la fin de l'année 2024 au début 2025, incluant la conception du projet, le bail, la lettre d'intention et le plan financier. En parallèle, puisque le déménagement de la bibliothèque dans la salle Camille Piché est désormais annulé, nous devons réfléchir à l'avenir de cet espace. Nous proposons d'organiser une discussion stratégique lors d'une prochaine réunion du Conseil pour explorer les options possibles. Afin de garantir une discussion enrichissante et inclusive, nous donnerons aux résidents suffisamment de temps pour faire part de leurs opinions avant cette réunion. Plus d'informations à venir. Merci.
Quelle bonne nouvelle. Merci beaucoup. Madame Séguin?
Oui, merci. Si je peux juste rajouter que le conseil d'administration de la bibliothèque et la direction de la bibliothèque appuient le partenariat. C'est un endroit idéal au cœur du village pour la succursale d'Embrun qui va pouvoir desservir ses services et ça va être un endroit accessible pour tous.
Formidable, merci beaucoup. Quelques commentaires de mon côté. First of all, this is something that's been in the location of the Embrun Library. Ça fait depuis, je sais que 2016 qu'on en parle, 2015-2016 qu'on en parle. On a eu beaucoup d'idées qui sont venues, qui sont reparties. Puis là, finalement, on a quelque chose qui a beaucoup d'allure. J'aimerais aussi ajouter que, et M. Bourgon, feel free to jump in, on va être en train de faire un gros réaménagement de la rue Notre-Dame pour un projet d'infrastructure. Et it's a perfect timing to add a crosswalk right around there as well, and I think that's going to be included, which is really crucial because when at one time we discussed the possibility of having that the site at the Centre Maison des Arts, merci. Et puis, ça, c'était un des négatifs, c'était que c'était de l'autre bord de Notre-Dame, mais ça va être adressé en même temps avec la rénovation de Notre-Dame. Alors, le timing est parfait. Et puis, moi aussi, je voudrais juste dire qu'on est super content de travailler avec la coop. La coop a beaucoup des mêmes éléments que nous avons à vouloir avoir une belle communauté, à travailler avec notre communauté. Alors, on est très content de ce partenariat-là. Alors, any other comments from members of council? Councillor Deakin.
I have the honor of sitting on the library board, and so having been at both tables, it's been wonderful to see this taking shape and reading through the long, storied history of trying to serve the people of Embrun with a proper library branch for over a decade now. It was a long read, frankly, to go through all of the efforts, all of the consultations that have been done. Je tiens à remercier tous les membres anciens du conseil de bibliothèque, les membres du conseil anciens aussi, d'avoir fourni pendant des années ces efforts, ces idées, ces collaborations. I feel very positively about this move, both as a council member and as a board member of the library. I did want to have a comment on the big question that this also opens up around what will happen to Camille Piché. And in reading, I appreciate that the administration is seeking to engage with residents and asking council to engage with residents on this question. And I think it's very important that members of the community have their opportunity to give input. I'm not sure yet in terms of what sort of public engagement piece I would like to see around this for it to be done in a meaningful and holistic way. And the administration has already assured me that they're open to having discussions with me about how to best get that input in a meaningful way from residents so that they can see how it will be included. And so just want to express my gratitude to administration for their openness on that as well.
Merci. Councillor Lauren.
Just to confirm, those discussions would be happening with council, not just with Councillor Deacon?
Monsieur Godin.
On what is going to happen to the facility?
Through Mr. Mayor, so yeah, definitely we'll have a lot of discussions with the full council as far as what happens with Saint-Camille-Piché. I think what Councillor Deacon is referring to is just providing input on the public engagement piece and some ideas that you might have. But there will be some open discussions with the entire council.
Okay, thank you.
And I think it's also fair to say that we'll be addressing, the arenas, all that space as these facilities get developed. So, Councillor Lorraine?
Yeah, I was just going off to what Councillor Deacon had said, that in discussions with her specifically only is what it sounded like. So I wanted to ensure that council was going to be included in these discussions. Secondly, when I'm looking at the library funds available, talks about, it gets us to about $1.3 million, and that's including a DC increase. Where's the additional $550,000 going to come from?
Monsieur Godin? Monsieur Dagenet?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we will be bringing an item at the budget sessions regarding this project. So 1.8 million, it might be more than 1.8 million. 1.8 million is our share of the construction costs or our payment up front for the rent. But there will also be the relocation fee, the interior renovations to make it a library. But we have started working on a financial plan, and from our initial analyses, we'll be able to present something that's very minimal as far as tax implications moving forward. It's something that can be spread out over 15, 17 years to coincide with the renewal of the lease, which will take place 15 years down the line. So at this point in time, we don't have a specific financial plan to present. It will be coming up shortly, and it will be coming up before we do finalize that lease agreement with the co-op as well.
Merci, Monsieur Godin. Councillor Lauren, follow-up?
Yeah. No, another question. So
thank you.
the DC increase of $150,000 annually, will that'll come at the next review or next update of the DC, or is that actually already in our DC?
Monsieur Godin?
Yep, that's the current average increase per year that's currently in our DC. So it will be reviewed when we review our DC within the next couple of years.
Okay, because I'm just it just says DC increase of $150,000 annually. So that's why I was asking, is that a new amount that is going to be included in the next DC review? And how confident are we that that's going to be added to the DC?
Monsieur Godin?
Merci, Monsieur Masse. I'm just trying to, is that in the presentation that was in the appendix?
It's in the
Okay.
the presentation,
That's good.
the
Monsieur
library relocation presentation.
Monsieur Godin?
That represents the amount of DCs that we're collecting yearly. So the DC reserve is increasing yearly from approximately that amount, which could go up or could go down depending on growth, right? On how many building permits we do issue.
So the amount of 732 is what 732,166 is the amount that's accumulated to date, and the 150,000 is the amount that we are getting annually going forward.
That's correct.
Okay, so maybe it's the terminology in the report that needs to be corrected to not make it seem like we're seeking additional funding over and above what we're currently getting, because that's what it would sound like to me.
Thank you. Any other questions, members of council? Councillor Lalonde.
Yeah, I just want to echo some of the comments of Councillor Deacon and to add that it's very exciting. We know in the village of Russell how important the library has been for us from a community perspective, a community wealth development perspective. So I'm very excited, and I applaud the work of the board over all these number of years trying to get this thing down the road, and now to have an exceptional opportunity to actually have it located in the middle of the village of Embrun. And just to maybe highlight too the partnership with the co-op. I don't think we could ask for anything better in terms of a willing partner and someone who's invested in the community. I think the stars have aligned here to have such a group involved with us and a group that's been in our community for decades, if not longer, and look forward to that kind of a relationship that maybe can be leveraged for other things like affordable housing down the road.
Merci, Conseiller Lalonde. Any other questions or comments from members of council? Hearing none, we'll move to the resolution. So the resolution that council receives report CSAS LIB 2024-1 dated August 26, 2024, and approve the execution of a letter of intent with the Emblem Co-op for the terms outlined in the report. And this is moved by Councillor Deakin.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes?
Sorry, are we approving this one now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I thought we were just doing it one by one.
No, so the resolution, we had made that change.
11A, sorry.
Yeah. So I'd read it. So this is moved by Councillor Deakin, seconded by Conseiller Lalonde. All in favor? Thank you. And that is passed. I just, in doing so, I'm wondering, do we have anyone from the co-op here today? Yeah, okay. Oh, what's that? Yes, absolutely. So I'd like to suspend the rules of procedure and request that we have, Patrick say a few words. So I need a mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Deakin, seconded by Conseiller Lalonde. All in favor? Thank you. La parole est à vous.
Bonsoir à tous. Merci de me donner quelques instants pour pouvoir m'adresser à tout le monde. La première des choses, c'est que c'est vrai que c'est un projet qui est ambitieux.
Attends, tu peux-tu juste te présenter, Patrick,
Oui,
si vous voulez, parce que pour le monde qui est...
Patrick Terrien, je suis directeur général de Coop Embrun. Donc, c'est vrai que c'est un projet ambitieux, mais quand je pense au McDonald's qu'on a réalisé, quand je pense aussi à la rénovation du garage Grégoire, c'était des projets ambitieux, même que certains diraient impossibles, on a réussi à le faire. Donc, oui, c'est ambitieux, mais c'est un projet aussi qui est réaliste. Ceci étant dit, moi, ce que je voulais surtout mentionner, autre que de vous remercier pour la confiance, c'est le travail qu'on a réussi à faire à travers les années. Ça fait 9 ans que je suis à Embrun et je peux vous dire qu'on a fait du chemin. Il y a 9 ans passés, quand je venais ici, c'était pour chialer. C'est la vérité. Puis je pense qu'il n'y a personne ici de l'administration avec qui je n'ai pas eu l'occasion de discuter et aussi de bâtir une relation. Dans ce projet-là, spécifiquement, il y a de la confiance, il y a de la transparence, puis on travaille aussi pour un projet de la communauté. Fait que je tenais à remercier l'équipe de l'administration que vous avez. C'est grâce à eux que ce projet-là prend son envol aujourd'hui.
Fantastique. Merci beaucoup, M. Terrien. Là, j'aimerais procéder possiblement à une petite photo de groupe. Oh, c'est bon. Alors, si on pourrait avoir les membres du conseil et Patrick, je vois Laurie is here, France. Peut-être si on peut prendre une petite photo vite fait, s'il vous plaît. OK, alors on va reprendre. Encore une fois, merci à tous. Thank you, everyone, and apologies for tweaking or adding that picture in there. I think it's an important moment and worth capturing for sure. So, all right, we're moving to 11B, bylaw to exempt lands from part lot control PD 2024, refer to 16 bylaws. Questions, comments, members of council? Anything to add? This would be with... Sorry, c'est pas M. Bourgon, M. Dagenet. Anything to add there? No? Okay. Item C, bylaw to exempt certain lands from part law control PD 2024, 905 to 907 Chablis Street in Embrun. Questions, comments, members of council? M. Dagenet? Nothing to add. Thank you. Item D, CCBF Administrative Funding Agreement with AMO 2024 to 2034 Report CSAS FS 2024-11. Ça va être M. Dagenet aussi. Quelque chose à rajouter? Non? Questions, comments, members of council? Thank you. Item E, Summary of Purchases Awarded Over $25,000, Report CSAS FS 2024-12. Monsieur Dagenet, anything to add? Members of council, questions or comments? Parfait, merci. Grant Applications Report 2024 Q1, Q2 Report CSAS FS 2024-13. Monsieur Dagenet? OK. Questions, comments, members of council? Monsieur Dagenet, est-ce qu'on a... je sais que ça ne fait pas partie du Q2, mais est-ce qu'on peut avoir un commentaire au sujet de l'application qu'on fait en ce moment pour le REC Complex? Juste mettre à jour pour les membres du conseil. Je ne voulais pas vous mettre sur place, là.
C'est correct. Je prévoyais d'en discuter un petit peu plus loin dans la réunion. Nous prévoyons de postuler au programme du Fonds pour l'infrastructure communautaire des sports et loisirs offert par le ministère des Sports provincial. Les fonds totaux disponibles s'élèvent à 200 millions avec un maximum de 10 millions par demande. Les objectifs du programme sont les suivants. Améliorer la programmation sportive et récréative locale, fournir des équipements qui n'existent pas actuellement dans la communauté, créer des emplois locaux, augmenter l'activité physique et améliorer la santé et le bien-être de la communauté, promouvoir la participation locale et l'accès abordable au sport et aux loisirs, offrir l'opportunité d'organiser davantage d'événements sportifs provinciaux, nationaux et internationaux. Donc, nous contemplons là, postuler dans les prochaines semaines pour cet octroi, puis on va vous tenir informé des résultats de notre candidature.
OK. Monsieur Godin, est-ce que vous avez quelque chose à rajouter ou c'est beau? OK. Councillor Lord?
You said something very important there, and I want to make sure that that we understand it as well as the public too, is one of the decisions that was made was to keep the pool at the size of the lanes to ensure that we had a certain certification. I don't know the term of the certification, but it's the national certification to make sure that we can actually hold meets. And if I heard correctly during your speech about the grant program, it's in order to be able to provide regional, provincial, and national events. And I think that is going to be a key point for us as well to focus on in that application, is that because we kept the pool at the size at the lane size that we did, that enables us and therefore potentially qualifies us in another fashion for this grant. Is that accurate?
Monsieur Dagenet?
Yes, that's accurate. Thank you very much.
Parfait, merci. Puis Monsieur Dagenet, on peut s'attendre à trouver quoi, 10 millions, c'est sûr? Mais s'il y a quelque chose qu'on peut faire du côté du conseil, quoi que ce soit, on est là pour aider avec ce projet-là, pour s'assurer qu'on a autant de financement possible Je sais que in the newsletter that's coming out, I'm going asking all residents if they have any connections, any ideas for any kind of partnerships and stuff like that. So we're going to be open for that to try to help with the financing. We do have a good plan in place, but why not try to get more, right? So merci beaucoup. Formidable. Okay, anything else to add on this? All right, moving forward. Item G. Financial report, January to June report, CSASFS 2024-14. Questions, comments, members of council? Monsieur Dagenet, anything to add? Moi, j'avais juste une petite question. I noticed that at the department level, we have we have budget and costs, bridges and culverts, plus 486K, sidewalks plus 116K. These amounts were budgeted, but they were at zero in the past. Is that just simply because they're just a one-off? And we don't need an answer right now. We can come back to that.
It's a transfer from asset management.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's what that is. Okay, parfait. In the Schedule B, childcare services, year over year, we're at 303K versus last year at 85K. So childcare services, any reason for concern there for that increase? And I should have sent you these ahead of time. I apologize.
I'll look into it and
OK,
I'll send you
c'est beau.
an answer.
OK, merci. Councillor Lauren?
Just off the top of my head for the increases to the childcare services, because we added two new facilities this year.
Yeah, it's more than likely, yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can go over those. Merci. All right, so that council receives report CSASFS 2024-14 dated August 26, 2024, the financial report up to the second quarter of 2024 covering the periods of January to June 2024 for information purposes. Moving to item H, update on recreation complex construction contract, report CSASFS 2024-15. Monsieur Dagenet, Madame Guittard.
Oui. Donc, le 24 juin 2024, l'administration a présenté le contrat attribué à McDonald Construction Brothers pour la construction du complexe récréatif d'un montant de 86 75 000. Dans nos prévisions, nous avons alloué un montant de 5 millions pour des changements qui pourraient survenir au cours de la période de construction. Le Conseil a approuvé ce montant, mais a demandé à l'administration de préparer un résumé de tous les changements par rapport au plan initial tout au long de la construction. Aucun changement n'a été émis sur la première facture pour les travaux réalisés en juillet. Ce premier rapport est présenté sous forme de rapport formel, mais les rapports suivants seront présentés dans la section Consent Item en tant que mise à jour du complexe récréatif à chaque réunion du Conseil jusqu'à la fin de la construction.
Merci. Questions, commentaires, membres du Conseil? Moi, je veux juste dire que the Progress Invoice qu'on utilise maintenant, je pense que c'est un outil excellent pour qu'on suive, like that we keep on top of what's going on from our perspective here at Council. Alors, c'est bien apprécié. Merci beaucoup. All right. So the Council receives report CSAS FS 2024-15 dated August 26, 2024 for information purposes only. Moving to item I. Modification au budget d'infrastructure 2024, Q2, rapport CSAS-AM-2024-03, que le Conseil reçoive rapport CSAS-AM 2024-03 daté du 26 août 2024 à titre d'information. Commentaire, M. Dagenet? Non. Question, commentaire, membre du Conseil? Non. Alors, on continue. J. Entente de service avec la municipalité de North Dundas pour les services de fourrière, rapport PIC 2024-08, que le Conseil reçoive rapport PIC 2024-08 daté du 26 août 2024 et adopte le règlement proposé afin de signer l'entente proposée avec la municipalité de North Dundas pour les services de fourrière. Questions, commentaires, membres du Conseil? Madame Bourdeau, quelque chose à rajouter? Non? Okay, this is easy. All right. Interdiction, item K, interdiction de s'arrêter sur le chemin North Russell à Russell, rapport PIC 2024-09, que le Conseil reçoive le rapport PIC 2024-09 daté du 26 août 2024 et approuve tel que recommandé dans ce rapport le règlement proposé afin de faire l'ajout de zones d'arrêt interdites aux traverses d'écoles sur les chemins North Russell à Russell. Quelque chose à rajouter, Madame Bourdeau? Non? Questions, comments, members of council? Seeing, hearing none. Moving to item I, no stopping on First Avenue and Russell, report PIC 2024. That council receives PIC 2024-10 dated August 26, 2024, and approve as recommended in the report the proposed bylaw to add a no stopping zone on each side of First Avenue and in the public parking lot area. Questions, comments, members of council? Councillor Lalonde.
It's an area I know well. I go down that street very often during the school year. This is going to be ambitious to make that a no stopping zone, I imagine. And I guess the question would be to bylaws. Do we plan to pay particular attention to the enforcement of this new provision? Because it's a very natural operation for the parents to come up that street, stop in the middle, stop on the side, stop on the grass, stop on people's lawns, get out, go in, bring their kids down into the schoolyard and come back out again. I could see this as being a particular challenge from the onset of its implementation. I wholeheartedly agree with it. I just, if there's any comments maybe from bylaw on what the plan is on enforcement.
Merci, conseiller Lalonde. Commentaire, Madame Bourdeau?
Yes, as indicated, the plan is to have at least 15 days of getting people to recognize why that's there also, because it's a danger for the kids, because the kids are running in between cars. I've been there numerous times myself. And the kids run between cars and the cars are moving and it's very scary. So we're trying to remove some of that problem area, and because people park in the parking, but they don't park in the parking spots. So it's very chaotic. So we're trying to prevent an accident from happening. So we'll take the 15 days and try to educate people and try to get them to park otherwise and walk their kids to school, maybe walk a block or two, but that's the plan right now.
Merci, Madame Bourdeau. Follow-up, Conseiller Lalonde?
Maybe just a follow-up comment. Like I say, I live right around that area. So your comments as to the safety for children, I couldn't agree with more. I've seen all kinds of, maybe not near misses, but some real breathtaking moments of people exiting vehicles with other vehicles moving up and down that stretch. So that's why I say I support it wholeheartedly, because I do see myself on a regular basis the safety issues that come with that area.
Merci. Conseillère Lalonde? Pardon, Conseillère Deacon.
Merci. There will be more cars and there will be more children actively transporting themselves to school as a result of the changes. So it's going to be trickier than ever, this spot. And I do want to prioritize the safety of those taking active transportation. If it means that those in the cars will be needing to wait 1 or 2 minutes more or walk 5 or 10 more meters to protect the safety for active transportation on that road. I believe it's worthwhile. And for that reason, I wanted to suggest, if you look at the red lines on the west side of First Avenue, where it's proposed to have a no stopping zone, heading south there, it stops about halfway across that soccer field. And I would like to propose that we extend that to the library, where the library property starts, where that park and the library property starts. And the reason being, if we're prioritizing pedestrian and cycle safety there, the students will be ducking into that park for safety, that along that grassy, fairly plain area. And then they would be forced to get back on the road and be weaving inside and outside of those cars on the west side again until that no-stop zone. So I would like us to extend the no-stop zone down to the park for better continuity and flow, and prioritizing pedestrians on that west side so that they can safely get all the way to that path that takes them into the school.
Okay, so perhaps we can pull this item and discuss this separately. So I'd like to, so we'll pull item I. Do we need to vote on that, Madame Committee? No. We'll
Not
just,
at this time.
okay, we'll just pull item I.
That's not I, though.
Oh, it's L, and I'm
L.
looking at L, and I'm reading I, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that's pulled, and we'll discuss that after. Okay, so we'll move to item M, Public Engagement Consultant Report, CSAS Comms 2024-01. Council received report CSAS Comms 2024-01, dated August 26 for information purposes. Monsieur Dagenet.
Oui. Donc, l'administration de la municipalité de Russell s'est vue confier un mandat crucial par le Conseil le 26 février 2024. Élaborer une politique d'engagement public. L'objectif du rapport de ce soir est de vous fournir une mise à jour de nos progrès et d'expliquer nos prochaines étapes. Depuis le début de ce processus, nous avons mené des discussions approfondies au sein de notre administration pour recueillir les perspectives variées de différents acteurs concernés. Ces échanges ont été déterminants pour développer une compréhension globale et inclusive des attentes et des besoins en matière d'engagement public. En parallèle, nous avons organisé une réunion stratégique le 8 avril avec vous, les membres du Conseil. Cette rencontre a permis de recueillir votre avis et votre vision sur ce sujet essentiel et de définir les étapes nécessaires pour la création de notre politique d'engagement public. Les idées et les aspirations partagées ont grandement enrichi notre réflexion et orienté notre approche. Pour que cette politique soit véritablement efficace, il est crucial d'assurer une implication active des résidents à chaque étape du processus. C'est pourquoi nous prévoyons de lancer un sondage pour mieux cerner leurs besoins et attentes. Nous avons également décidé de faire appel à des experts pour nous aider dans plusieurs domaines clés. Auditer nos pratiques actuelles, identifier les obstacles à la participation, améliorer la transparence municipale, concevoir le sondage destiné aux résidents et établir des objectifs spécifiques avec des indicateurs de performance pour mesurer le succès de la politique. Notre objectif ultime est de renforcer notre interaction avec les résidents en veillant à ce que nos pratiques de participation soient non seulement efficaces, mais aussi inclusives et adaptées aux besoins de notre communauté.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Dagenet. Quelque chose à rajouter, Monsieur Godin? C'est beau? Merci. Questions, comments, members of council? Councillor Deacon.
Just looking for clarification on the work that Red Brick will be doing, because in the request for proposal that went out, I saw that it was mentioned optional to do the policy development, and in the report it also mentions phase 1 and phase 2, phase 1 being the research, phase 2 being the policy. I'd like to just hear from administration the confirmation that the bid that came from Red Brick was for phase 1 and phase 2, and that cost reflects both of those phases.
Thank you,
Yes,
Councillor Deacon. Monsieur
Yes, the
Dagenet.
bid from Red Bricks is contains both phase. So the policy will be written by them.
Merci. Any other questions on this item? Councillor Lauren.
Sorry, just to confirm, so 18,400 for both, and yet the next bid closest to it is 3 times that amount? Are we 1,000% that they understand the scope of this project? Because that concerns me that everybody else is 3 times that amount. Not just one party, but 3 other parties are that much higher.
Thank you, Councillor Lauren. Monsieur Dagenet?
Well, we've previously worked with Red Brick, and they helped us drafting our communication policy. So they are already familiar with our practices, which significantly helps save time. This project is also something they have done for other municipalities, streamlining the process. Another factor that contributes to their lower costs is that they would have 2 people working on this project compared to larger teams from other firms. While some firms included more in-depth processes, Red Brick's proposal aligns well with our needs.
Thank you.
Follow up? No? Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, members? Okay. Moving to item 12, reports from investigator ombudsman. So 12A, Information and Privacy Commissioner of Ontario, IPC Order MO-4544, upholding the township decision and dismissing the appeal. Madame Camille Laflamme, any additional information on this, please?
Yes. Hello, council members. No, just to say the title. So it's upholding the township's decision, and it's dismissing the appeal. And this was regarding an FOI about a closed session in 2021. So there was no wrongdoing on the township's part.
Merci beaucoup. Questions, commentaires, membres du conseil sur ça? Councillor Lauren?
At what point are we voting on this one? Are we voting on this one right now, or is it in?
At number 15, B or C.
Can I have this one removed, please, to be dealt with separately?
It's going to be separate by itself.
It is separate already?
Yes,
Okay.
at number 15.
Okay. Just making sure.
B. B, yep.
Conseiller Lalonde.
Yeah, I'd just like to take a second, because it was read rather matter-of-factly, but if you would indulge me for a few seconds, I want to read the analysis and finding, and I want to read the order. I'd like the general public to hear this and anyone listening in through the internet. I just want to quote what's said here, that I'm satisfied that the township took relevant considerations into account when it decided to not disclose the report to the appellant. The township considered the interests protected by the Section 6(1)B exemption and weighed those against disclosure of the record. Considering the township's overall representations, I'm satisfied that it determined that in order to address the interests protected by Section 6(1)B, only certain information from the report could be disclosed to the public. That information was disclosed by a township's committee at a later meeting open to the public, and the township decided that no further information could be made available. I am also satisfied that the township did not consider irrelevant matters or exercise its discretion in bad faith or for improper purpose. And in his order, or her order, the adjudicator says, I uphold the township's decision to withhold the report under Section 6(1)B of the Act and dismiss this appeal. So I'd just like to take the occasion to thank staff. We get these things from time to time for the work that they do, the time that it takes, the seriousness that they bring to these requests, and also to my fellow colleagues on council who also take these requests very seriously, because it's a challenge to our own conduct on council and how we deliberate in such situations with regards to these types of meetings. So I just want to take the moment to thank the clerk and the staff and my fellow members for the seriousness that we take each time we get one of these requests. And once again, for the fact that we've been vindicated from the appeal that was made. Thank you.
Well said, Councillor Lalonde. Thank you very much for your thoughts on that. Any other questions, comments? Moving forward to item 13, notice of motions, we have none. Item 14, question period on meeting of the day. Questions must be in relation to items on the agenda. Before asking the question, please fill in your name, address on the sign-in sheet. If you wish to receive a response from a member of council or staff, please leave a phone number or email on the sheet. Number 4, state your name before asking the question. And by asking questions during the council meeting, you are consenting to be part of a live broadcast and the official public recording of the proceedings. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Mayor. You don't have a sign-in sheet.
Oh,
So,
do we have a
Charles
sign-in
Armstrong,
sheet?
85 Castle Bow Street in Embrun.
Yeah, just one second. Is there a sign-in sheet anywhere we can? Just to make sure we're all official here. That's okay. We'll proceed. Mr. Armstrong, go ahead.
Yeah, it's about item 11A. How does the size of the facility in the co-op building compare with the recommended size in the facility study back like 2016, 2017?
Thank you. Madame Séguin?
Merci, thank you. I would have to go back at the report for 2016, but currently I can say that it matches the Russell branch.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. And the next one is just item 10. That's the resolution for AMCTO. Have you read all of those recommendations, the 34 recommendations that were that they published? And that was just, 45 recommendations. 48.
Is your question asking me if I read them?
Well, first, have they read them? Because some of them seem to be quite precise. Other ones seem to be very contentious. So if everybody's read them, great.
Point of order, Mr.
Councillor
Mayor. A member of the public asking council if we read our reports, I think is extremely ignorant. And I'm not going to sit here and be asked if I read my reports. So if you have questions regarding the report, I think the public should be asking that question, not insulting me whether or not I've read a report.
Thank you, Councillor Oren. Mr. Armstrong?
I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
You set it up.
All right. Any other questions from members of the public? Hearing, seeing none, we'll move to item 15, resolutions. So except for item L, so item L has been withdrawn. So resolutions under 11, motion that council approve all recommendations listed on the agenda under 11, reports from departments, councils, and committees. And this is moved by Councillor Lauren. Yes. Seconded by Councillor Deakin. All in favor? Passed. Thank you very much. Now we'll look at item L.
Mr. Mayor, that was supposed to be the main motion, and then we remove item L. So
In the
we
second
can
motion.
say the first one, Councillor Lorraine, Councillor Deakin, is to remove item L,
Oh, yes, thank you.
and then we
okay.
can vote on the
Thank you.
rest.
Okay, thank you. So all in favor for removing item L? Thank you. All right, so motion that council approve all recommendations listed on the agenda under item 11 except for item L from reports of departments and council committees. And that's moved by Councillor Lalonde, seconded by Councillor Deacon. All in favor? Thank you. All right. Now we have item L. So I need, just 1 second here. All right. All right, so do we have an amendment being proposed to put on the table? Councillor Deacon?
So looking at the resolution, sorry, I don't have the full bylaw. No stopping signs on First Avenue in Russell, but it would be the language that we would want to change around the distance of the no stopping
Thank
to
you.
the edge of the park property. And unfortunately, we don't have the exact distance to know. It was 44 meters originally on that side. Maybe perhaps Madame Bordeaux.
Yeah, Madame Bordeaux?
Yes, so I just looked on la carte, and the property next to the library is 1088. So if we put that property number, then we can just.
Up to that property number, up to and including?
1088 First Avenue. So it's that second, the final piece there. First Avenue, west side from north parking stall and extending south to 1088 First Ave. You already got it.
The other thing that I added, and it's only a suggestion, if we're gonna add the no parking to that extent, that we apply it only Monday to Friday, 8 to 5.
That's very reasonable. Okay, so we have a proposed amendment on the table. I need a mover and seconder, so moved by Councillor Deacon, seconded by Councillor Lalonde. All in favor of the amendment? All right, we'll proceed to voting for the resolution as amended. So I need a mover, Councillor Deacon, seconded by Councillor Lalonde, as... Who am I? Oh, Monsieur Bourgon, oui.
The address would be 73 First Ave. That's the house right by the library.
Okay, can we get a confirmation on that before we put this in?
73.
So that's a difference between 1088 and 73 is a big difference.
I know the house, it is 73.
If I may, or?
Yeah, Councillor Deacon?
It's not to 73, it would be just to where the park meets the soccer field there. So 73 is the first house, but there's the community garden in the park there it was that property.
Okay.
Thank you.
I know that we are starting school, but can we possibly defer this to make sure that we have an accurate resolution here?
We can measure the exact distance.
Okay, so how do we, so defer it and measure and come back next council meeting? I know that school is starting and we'd like to have this in place right away, but at the same token, can you clarify, Madame Bordeaux? Je comprends pas. Qu'est-ce que vous me dites?
I could probably get a measurement right now if you want to give me half an hour.
Okay, so why don't we just recess for 5 minutes? Is that good?
I'll contact the officer on the road and get them to measure.
Okay, so if we can either recess or we can move forward and then just come back to that one, am I allowed to do that? So we're leaving item L unresolved until, Monsieur Godin?
Merci, Mr. Mayor. Can I suggest that we maybe just take a recess for 5 minutes and we'll see if we can figure it all out? If we
Okay.
can, we can always come back.
Okay, that's fine. So, so we will recess for 5 minutes. Do I need a mover seconder on that? No, so let's recess, let's come back at 7:30, say 7:32. So we'll restart at 7:32. Thank you.
before we vote on it and
Yes,
move along.
please, go ahead.
I just wanted to ensure that there will be communication to the school about this change so that they have the opportunity to send the information out to parents as well. Okay,
Madame
thank
Mildeau?
you.
Yes, we'll inform the school.
Thank you. All right, so the amendment, I need a motion for the amendment by Councillor Deacon, seconded by Councillor Lauren. All in favor of the amendment? And now a motion to approve as amended. So Councillor Deacon, seconded by Councillor Lalonde. All in favor? Thank you. Item L is passed. All right. So we're at 16. So motion that council approve bylaws 2024-66 to 2024-71 inclusively
We didn't do
for,
C.
what's that?
We didn't do 15C.
Thank you. So 15C motion that council approve all recommendation listed on the agenda under item 12, report from an investigator and ombudsman. And this is moved by Councillor Lauren, seconded by Councillor Deacon. All in favor?
Hold on, I gotta.
Oh, sorry.
I was asking to remove it, so
Oh,
it's because
yes.
I have an amendment.
Yes, sorry, I apologize. Thank you. So Councillor Lauren, the floor is yours.
I would like to add at the bottom of this,
Sorry, we could put the main
So
motion.
put the motion on the floor
If
so
you don't
that,
mind. and
we already
then-
did.
as we did, yeah, so Councillor Lauren, seconded by Councillor
Okay.
Deacon, all in favor. It's on the floor.
No, well, we haven't voted on it.
No, we haven't voted. We put it
No.
on the floor for an amendment, yeah.
Yeah. So I have where is it? I just gotta pull it up now. 15. There it is there. So the last sentence speaks to, where is it? I'd just like to add to the end, and I'll just read the last piece of it. It says, Anna Kalenkachenko, with respect to IPC's Notice of Appeal, MA 2100637, dated October 22nd, 2021, relating to the Freedom of Information decision provided on September 20. Do we have the right dates in this? Goes back to 2021?
Yeah.
Sorry, okay.
Yes.
Just making sure. By the clerk and Freedom of Information and Privacy Coordinator of the Township of Russell regarding the closed session meeting of council held in 2021, where the adjudicator upheld the township's decision to withhold the report under Section 6(1)B of the Act and dismissed the appeal. I would like that added to
To the motion?
to the resolution, so that it's you know what happened within the actual resolution. You don't have to go back to a report or the actual findings. So I would like that added at the end of the resolution, please.
So if I can
Madame
add a clarification to just the part in the title that you want me to add to the resolution.
Well, no, I'm actually, what I'm asking to add essentially is section 38 of the analysis and finding of the report. The order itself, apologies. The order itself is what I'm asking to add to the end of the resolution. So whereas the adjudicator upheld the township's decision to withhold the report under section 6(1)B of the Act and dismissed the appeal.
Oh, so not 36, the last part?
Correct, under that, yeah, under the order
Okay.
is what I'm asking to
So-
add. But I gave my own wording to it because you have to word it differently than what's in the report. But I can say it one more time and
Give me a second so I can go back to,
Merci.
okay, so where the
adjudicator
upheld
the township's decision to withhold the report and then under the section of the act and dismissed the appeal. And I'll move that amendment.
Madame Laflamme, Cameron Laflamme, c'est bon? Okay, so we have an amendment on the table, and it's moved by Councillor Lauren. I need a seconder. Seconded by Councillor Deacon. All in favor? Thank you. We will now vote on this as amended. So motion that council approve recommendation as amended on the agenda under item 12, reports from an investigator or ombudsman. And this is moved by Councillor Lauren, seconded by Councillor Deacon. All in favor? Thank you. All right. Moving to 16B, motion that council approve bylaws 2024-66 to 2024-71 inclusively for first, second, and third reading as listed on the agenda. And this is moved by Councillor Lalonde, seconded by Councillor Deacon. All in favor? And passed. Thank you. 17, new business reports. We have none. Yes?
Sorry, did we have to amend the bylaws at all for that section of the?
Since we
Since we
will
did the
change the
resolution?
resolution to say what was changed, we'll just
We're good?
approve it like that,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, thank you, thank you. So item 18A, other business presented by councillor members. Councillor Deacon on the industrial park update.
Thank you. I wanted to add this tonight over the summer.
I think we
sorry.
missed number 16A. You had A, that was A, okay. So now we have B.
We just did B.
I thought we just did B.
So both of them?
A was done before?
Yeah,
No. We only passed the 2 resolution at that time, at number 19A. So now we have a bylaw in first and second reading for Wood Edie at 16A.
okay, so motion that council approve bylaw 2024-65 for first, second reading. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right, okay, so that's moved by Councillor Lauren, seconded by Councillor Deacon. All in favor? Thank you. So we have both done now?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. All right. Item 18A, Councillor Deacon on update of industrial park. Floor is yours.
Thank you. So I've been receiving questions and expressions of interest from residents to give inputs regarding the 417 industrial park. And most recently, just over a week ago, I have a question relating to these communications that have been coming forward. Just over a week ago, residents were asking about the nature of the work being done with stakes in the soy field between Emar and Edie Road. And I would just like to get clarification from administration on what the purpose was of that staking.
Thank you. Monsieur Bourgon?
Without knowing exactly which stake, we did some survey of some potential land to be sold. And also, we did stake out some areas where the archaeological survey can be completed.
Thank you.
I could
Follow-up?
clarify, I'm referring specifically to staking between 2 properties on Edie Road
For
that would
article
extend to
survey, yeah.
Emma. Yeah.
So that's in order under our municipal class C8 that's currently ongoing, that needs to be completed. So we had to stake out the areas where that the consultant can perform the work. There's different class to be done, so that's why.
Okay.
Thank you. Is
Thank
that-
you. And I just had a follow-up as well, because these questions and concerns are coming to myself. I just want to be clear that should residents have any questions about available studies relating to the 417 Industrial Park, or if they're seeking to provide input about development and activities in that area, can I have the mayor and the administration's assurance that they would meet directly with residents on such matters?
Certainly from my perspective, door is always open, but where I'm limited is if we don't have the information because it's ongoing and hasn't been presented to council, there's nothing that I can report to. Monsieur Godet?
Merci, Monsieur Maire. And definitely from our perspective, I mean, we're always open. If there's any questions and if they're technical questions, we definitely encourage council to forward them to the administration, and we'll be happy to answer them and to meet with residents when necessary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lord.
I'm confused because I thought you had already, Mr. Mayor, responded to these concerns by email, offered to meet, offered to have an in-person discussion, and the group refused that, wanted everything in writing, yet council hasn't even seen any reports yet. So I'm just confused over the ask from council.
Thank you. I think that's noted. It certainly it came by email. We responded by email to one person, and I guess this makes it public for everyone to hear that we are open, and there is no hidden agenda on these stakes. It was very clear in our response to that particular resident. But if there are other residents asking, I think it's fair to ask the question in public. That's fine. Monsieur Bourgon, anything to add on that?
Well, I was going to add, obviously right now we have several studies ongoing, and it's hard for administration to provide any info before the study being completed. So in the upcoming months, we'll have several reports, another round of open house on various studies, which everything will be posted, resident will be advised. So it's going to be another big fall. We just had a big spring of several open house, so it's round 2 basically.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Bourgon. Councillor Lauren?
So since we're talking about this, then I'm going to ask a question to through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Godet and Mr. Bourgon. Has council given any direction on decisions on those items prior to the completion of those reports?
Thank you. Monsieur Bourgon, Monsieur Godet?
At this point, the only direction received was to conduct those survey or studies. So at this point, no, it hasn't been brought forward to council.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Lauren. Any other comments from members of council on this item? All right. So moving forward, announcements, I believe. On track, Madame Camille Laflamme. I think I've got everything. Public consultations, we did this earlier. We're good. So announcements, I've got one, and perhaps Conseiller Lalonde could tie into it, but I was asked to play some floor hockey on Friday, and perhaps Councillor Lalonde wants to elaborate on my prowess on the on the surface.
Don't give up your day job. No, kidding aside, yeah, we had a wonderful event on Friday, considering that it was sort of put together over the summer months when people were already away on holidays or doing other things. We, with the help of my secretary on the Accessibility Advisory Committee, Louis Savoie, we had an offer from the Capital City Condors who wanted to come out and play a friendly game of floor hockey with us. The Capital City Condors, pretty famous by now as a group of young adults with developmental disabilities. They're championed, supported by the Ottawa Senators and some former NHLers in particular. So we put something together. I want to thank very much, I said that earlier today in an email, staff, Parks and Rec, Céline Guitard and her group, and Louis, and a lot of members of our administration who came out and played, Councillor Deakin, who served up hot dogs, and the mayor, who did his best to try and put the puck in the net, as they say. Also had our chief, McBain, as our coach behind the bench. This was an exceptional opportunity. The interest and the energy was quite remarkable. I was taken aback by how quickly everyone came together. We made a lot of youth very happy. We gave out small gifts at the end of the match. And this is all about what we do with accessibility, is to just champion all those residents in our community that have physical and developmental disabilities, that just to remind them how much of a part of our community they are. We had close to, I think, 70, 80 people. Everybody's calling for this to be an annual event. So my thanks to staff, to the mayor, to Lisa for the hot dogs, to Chief McBain. It was a wonderful success and a real signal to the community that we're committed to our continued support of the developmentally and physically disabled living with us, among us, working for us. So merci beaucoup.
Merci, Conseiller Lalonde. And on that, there was a last-minute change we had requested with Chief McBain with the fire department, because we had a truck there. If the members on the team could go and see the truck and everything else, and without batting an eye, that was made possible. So that was really appreciated as well. I know that I got to sit in the truck too, and I thought that was pretty cool. I do believe, Chief McBain, that there was an announcement that you had. Am I wrong in my recollection pertaining to the work that your team did at the Russell Fair?
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. Yeah, so I just wanted to do a shout out to the past Russell Fair that we had. One to the volunteer firefighters. They did approximately 320 volunteer hours over the 3 days of the fair event. Also to the other members of Township staff who helped, Parks and Rec, bylaw, Public Works for closing roads, and so just a huge community event from Township staff participating for the Russell Fair. So just a big thank you.
And just to highlight that your team was also there on the Meet Me on Main Street, and the work of all the staff on Meet Me on Main Street, which was a fantastic event here in Embrun as well. That happened while we were on break here, which we're excited and looking forward to having more of as we move forward. Any other announcements that should be mentioned? Seeing, hearing none, we are going to move to item 21, strategic discussion. And so this is an item that we don't often use, or an item that we use for strategic discussions. And tonight we have a really interesting topic to discuss, and we'd like to talk about the council committees. And really, so the goal of this particular discussion is to basically share our thoughts on the council committees. Council committees are an opportunities for residents to engage in specific areas within the township. And I think that in looking at our engagement strategies and so on, I think it also makes sense to look at that. So there are two particular items that we wanted to cover in these discussions, and one is discussing the specific committees, are there any specific overlaps or anything else, and also the aspect of continuity. So as members of council here that sit on these committees, we typically take on committees at the beginning of the mandate, and in the past it's been kind of more or less stays like that for the entire mandate, and so there is some opportunities, I think, to improve continuity in those positions as chairs and vice chairs, and possibly rotating some of the councillors. But we'd like to see if there's some sort of formalized process that can come from that, if we can get some sort of recommendations from staff on that. And so really, it's just an open discussion with members of council on this. Monsieur Godin and his team will kind of take notes and come back to us with some recommendations at a later date. And when we look at these recommendations, I think timeline, Monsieur Godin, we talked a few months to one, ensure that we go through the by-election process, so we have a full slate here at the table when we go through that. Is that my recollection accurate on that, Monsieur Godin?
That's right, Mr. Mayor. So if that's acceptable for council, we would appreciate a few months just to, like you said, get through the by-election, get through the budget, and all the different works that are currently underway. But I think it would be reasonable. I'll have to discuss with the team after we have this discussion. but to have something brought to council either at the end of 2024 or very early 25.
Fantastic. So if we look at the discussion outline, if you just scroll down, there we go, discussion outline. So there's, more or less 3 points there, but I don't want that to limit or constrain the discussion whatsoever. So if members of council want to jump in at any point through any of these points, I just want to make sure that we kind of cover that for staff as they will be taking notes. So the floor is open. Councillor Lauren?
Do we know which ones of these, I know at least one, are regulatory in nature and cannot be dissolved and are required?
Sure. Monsieur Godin?
Merci, Monsieur Maire. So I'll appreciate if my colleagues can jump in. I know the Accessibility Advisory Committee is mandated, and the Planning Advisory Committee as well. I'm not entirely sure about all the other ones. The Public Library Board as well is legislated by the Library Act. Committee of Adjustment?
Yeah, that's within the planning, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. The planning, so.
Yeah, I think that's
that's
the ones that I have. So those are mandated. Those have to stay on no matter what the discussion goes. We definitely want to keep those. It doesn't preclude us discussing in terms of chairing, vice chairing of those positions and potential kind of turnaround. Thoughts, Conseiller Lalonde?
I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the structure and the terms and conditions. As a rookie counselor 2 years ago, I found myself on 4 committees to start with. Maybe part of that's my fault for proposing a new one, the affordable housing. But I had that for a year and a bit, along with advisory, the accessibility advisory, the seniors, and also being a member of the Planning Advisory Committee. I know that there is some legislation around the accessibility, but I wanted to make just a few points, at least to get things started. I don't want to go too far here tonight because I know staff will have a job of looking in on this as well, and I don't know how long my voice is going to last anyway. But if I could just come in under the item, the first one, evaluate the necessity and importance of each existing committee. So, as I said, I get to chair the Accessibility Advisory Committee, which we spoke about earlier, and the Seniors Advisory Committee the last 2 years, or a good part of that. And what's become apparent to me, and maybe that's the good part about being a newbie, is you get to look at stuff from a fresh perspective, is that there was overlap indeed, and even to the point where I've actually had members of both those committees suggest to me separately at different times how it might be interesting to have some sort of maybe even a subcommittee struck so that members of the Accessibility Advisory Committee could sit down with members or representatives of the Seniors Advisory Committee to discuss common issues and challenges. Obviously, for seniors, accessibility is a big issue, getting in and out of buildings. And for those on the Accessibility Committee, well, that one's a no-brainer. But interestingly enough, the last week I was fortunate to attend the AMO conference in Ottawa, Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and attended a session on the Sunday about age-friendly communities. And a lot of people think that that necessarily means seniors in particular, but in fact it was not the case. There was some discussion about age-friendly really revolving around all age groups, and the points were made about how seniors are participating with schools in reading to their students, and how youth is participating in seniors' homes and helping out with activities and events there, that there was actually some common ground and some real benefit to both groups to being more closely involved together. So although the accessibility committee or advisory committee is one that is legislated, I still see an opportunity, and I'm certainly prepared to have some constructive discussions on it with members of both those committees as well as through staff, to see whether there still wouldn't be a possibility of integrating the two. So you might be able to hold on to the one, but you might be able to incorporate the other, because some of the challenges we have as chairs of these committee, I'm certainly having it myself, and my secretaries are having it as well, is you know, the idea that topics and issues of the day are to build agendas with can be a challenge at sometimes on some occasions. As well as looking at the mandates of those committees, where we're expecting more action and activity out of the members themselves to guard against just getting together to have friendly discussions about the popular issues of the day. While interesting, they may not be meaningful in terms of what the committee's trying to advance through its mandate. Certainly we saw that with the Affordable Housing Committee, that Council gave us pretty clear and concise, a clear and concise mission on preparing and delivering a report, and I think we were all pleased with that type of approach, where you have work to do, the members themselves are given responsibilities and duties, and they have to execute on them. So I'm very much interested in having that discussion. I even see the opportunity, because we've been talking about community well-being, that we might even strike a community well-being committee that includes the seniors, that incorporates the accessibility to the extent that that's legislatively possible, and even the diversity, equity, inclusion committee. There are so many common points between the three that I've seen, that I have had the chance to discuss with other councillors and with some of the committee members, and that I got the opportunity to listen to at AMO about how their age-friendly, the issue of age-friendliness can be integrated and incorporated. So I leave that piece. That's the one thing I wanted to say. I look forward to that, because at the end of the day, this is all about community well-being, how we're treating accessibility issues, how we're dealing with seniors issues and diversity issues. There's a lot of common ground there, and I'll challenge administration to look at that, and I would be quite happy as well to participate in that, because I mean, there is information that the chairs of these committees can bring to the administration from our own experience. If I can, just the other point then that I wanted to also raise, and then I'll yield back to other councillors, is that certainly the other item on recommending appropriate term lengths for committee chairs and members of the public, for that matter, to ensure balance and continuity, opportunity, and perspectives. I'm very interested in that as well. I've seen some opportunities and challenges there with how many committees a councillor might be given during their term. I remember the outgoing mayor suggesting that there would be, even in this term, a review at the 2-year mark to see whether there was some opportunity or merit in changing chairs, having them switch out of their current duties into another committee to ensure some opportunity and a chance to get fresh perspective, so that we don't sit in these committees for so long a period of time that we start to look at things in the same way, through the same lens, over a long period of time. And I'd like to see that process a little more formalized. I know we have cases with some members on some committees who have been there for several years, while at the same time I hear from members of the public that they did manage to get on one committee for one term, but for whatever reason weren't admitted back on or weren't able to get back onto the committee for a second term, while it has been the case with other members on other committees. So I think it's a time to be to look at that closely, and I don't know when the last time that kind of a review was done, but I think the timing of it is appropriate now, and I thank the mayor for putting this on the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lalonde. Councillor Deakin.
Sure, I'll try to pick up where Councillor Lalonde left off. There's a few things that I wonder about. I'm just looking at the first prompt there around the necessity and importance of each existing committee. So for context, I also served on the Housing Committee, which has now been dissolved, and I chair the Community Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee, as well as the Teen Advisory Committee, and I have the pleasure of sitting on the Public Library Board as well. What I really appreciated about the beginning of this term was that the administration and the mayor at the time brought forward, in the terms of reference, a need for KPIs and impact measurement in the work that the committees would be doing. And so the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and Teen Advisory Committee, as well as the Library Board, is getting behind taking the terms of reference, molding them into pillars and key performance indicators that we're now measuring. And it's very good timing because both of those committees, when they meet next, will be reviewing evaluation, and evaluation outcomes will be coming to council at the next opportunity after those meetings. It's been a little bit of homework that we've been doing over the summer. With regard to different ages and age representation on committees, I don't disagree with the comments of Councillor Lalonde. I do see the Teen Advisory Committee as a separate entity and its own beast. It has a very specific mandate supporting youth to engage with other youth around local issues affecting the community here. And there is a leadership development piece to that committee, which I feel, and I've had the pleasure of witnessing, has been a great honor to see leadership develop and flourish among young people at that table. So I'm just very gratified, and I see the unique position that committee does serve. I want to acknowledge that the committees in the list here operate along somewhat of a spectrum between consultative and hands-on and action-oriented. They each have their own blend, their own flavor between, along that spectrum. I'd like to better understand that for myself. I think perhaps terms of reference could be a bit more clear on the dynamic that's to be expected at those committees. And I believe that committees that lean more towards the hands-on work should have their staff support resourcing reviewed to ensure that it reflects the heavier workload that those committees are doing. We're talking about committees that are planning events, committees that are doing hands-on consultations with other groups in the community. The Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, for example, has held 7 or 8 different consultations with upwards of 50 individuals from the community representing Muslim people, Black people, Francophone immigrant women. So that's a heavy load that those members are carrying, and I just want to make sure that that's well supported. And out of the work of the Housing Committee, sort of elaborating on what Councillor Lalonde was saying, it was more clear at the end of that work that there perhaps could be more work done at a committee level looking at community wealth development writ large. And that would include, there's so many dimensions to that term, but there's also an absence of committee work around economic development. And I wonder if that's an opportunity to be brought into committee structures in some way, shape, or form. I can go on to number 2, or I want to make sure there's space for other council members to speak as well.
Please go ahead, just move on.
Just-
So, we'll do as Councillor Lalonde did, and then we'll go
Okay,
to
I'll
Councillor
barrel
Lalonde.
on through. Thank you. Number 2 is exploring alternative methods for gathering resident feedback that could supplement or replace certain committee functions. I just appreciate very much, and the mayor alluded to it, that this is happening at the same time that we are looking at hiring the consultant for public engagement policy development. And again, I'm going to use a spectrum or a continuum scenario where you have members of the public who are aware that the township exists, aware that they're living in this township. That's kind of on the lower end of engagement with their local government. And the one that you see all the way at the other end is those residents who are engaging with the township on a committee level. It's second to actually running for a council seat. That is the highest level of engagement that residents bring, and I'm so grateful for that engagement. I am curious about how the review of committees at this time could dovetail with the work that the consultant will be doing as well. What are the experiences of committee members? What is the turnover like? Are they getting value? Are they encouraging their friends and family to also join committees? How do we make sure that we always get those fresh perspectives, those skills, those passions around the table? So just making sure that it's a positive experience for them, I think, will be helpful in this review. I'm just ticking off my boxes of what I've done here and said. I have a specific piece regarding the Teen Advisory Committee. It's so important that consultation that is done in a meaningful way and results in real recommendations to council that could influence outcomes for those folks. And so the Teen Advisory Committee has, in its terms of reference, the organizing of an annual teen forum. I find that that's a quick consultation to implementation cycle for council to go through with a budget in between. And so I am interested in amending those terms of reference to reflect how organizing events as teens could touch on other strategic objectives of the township. And one that comes to mind immediately for me is volunteerism. So if I'm not opposed to the group organizing an annual event, but in public engagement and consulting, you don't ask people the same question twice out of respect for their time and their energy. So I'd like that annual opportunity to be a bit more diverse in terms of the goals of those events. And I think, like I said, I think volunteerism could be a sweet spot for us to achieve a lot together as a community, and led again by the youth. And I just want to say, in terms of the DEI committee work, there is always that desire to see more intersectional experiences and perspectives represented on all committees. If you look at the diversity of the different committees, you see quite a bit of diversity on the DEI committee. Some of the other groups do look more homogenous, and that's okay. We can't be everywhere all at once. I do think that it's the work of the DEI committee to be looking at how we can support other committees to be embedding equity in all of the decision-making that they're doing. It can be a simple checklist. Who's not at the table? What would they have to say? Can we imagine what their perspectives might be? Can we consult with them and reach out to them on the side? And so I think that that'll be coming down the line. So all that to say, I'm not concerned deeply with the lack of diverse representation on committees, but I do think there's a step to be taken there for committees to be asking themselves questions about equitable outcomes in the decisions that they're making. And the DEI committee will be happy to equip those other committees with that sort of information in due time. The third point, review and recommend appropriate term lengths for committee chairs and public members. I have a strong belief that leaders create more leaders, and I think committee work benefits from a balance of historical knowledge and fresh perspective. I believe that chair terms and public membership terms should be capped at two terms of council. That enables a new councillor on a committee to come on, serve, orient themselves, orient members, serve for a second term, and be developing leadership horizontally and on the committee to ensure that at the end of those 2 terms there would be knowledge passed on and leadership baton passed as well. And I do also wonder about the value of having 1 versus 2 members of council on different committees. Just we are engaging the list here of committees that there are several other community-based committees that members of council also sit on. At one point of council of this term, I was sitting on 4 different committees, and I can say that's quite a bit. It's quite a bit of work, and I'm not sure what exactly the value is of having 2 members of council on specific committees. So I'd like that just to be looked at. And finally, it's kind of funny, it's backwards. I want to talk about orientation and onboarding of committee members. You know, you want to balance that fresh perspective, that seasoned leadership. You also want to enable new committee members to embrace the role that they've signed up for and make them feel enabled to bring motions to their committees, to navigate committee procedures, to understand what the expectations are of their conduct at committee as well. And so the library board has worked heavily on governance these last 6 months. We now have an onboarding checklist that's a diversity of orientation to what the library does, its mandate, its governing acts, governance 101 as well. Many folks that come to these new committees, it's their first time playing a governance role, and people can really shy away from that. So I do encourage looking into what other municipalities are doing in terms of onboarding and orientation packages for new committee members, just to help them participate fully, to help them hit the ground running. The 4 years goes by very quickly. And another thing that I would add on that list would be making sure that committees understand what the township strategic plan is and how their work fits into it. So that vertical between the strat plan and the terms of reference and themselves showing up to do the work to those ends. And yeah, I'm happy to share just want to make an offer to any members of council or administration. It's been an absolute pleasure to serve on the committees that I am serving on so far. And if we can be sharing tools, resources, answering each other's questions about what's working, I'm very open and eager to have those discussions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Deakin. Councillor Lauren.
Lot to digest. If I look at number 1, I guess if we go that way, I mean, obviously we've got 3 regulatory committees that, you know, we have to have them. So that to me is a no-brainer for those ones. The other ones, I think, terms of reference review for those should be conducted probably at the beginning of every term of council. I think it's important to make sure that we're maintaining and reviewing proper procedures for those committees. In terms of number 2, alternate methods, I mean, you know, I don't know if we're doing it in other committees, only because the committees that I sit on are always in this room. But moving meeting locations from a community engagement perspective, you know, might be make it easier for members of the public to attend those meetings. You know, if you're having a library board meeting, you hold it at the library, or you hold it or upstairs at the arena, and then you hold it somewhere else so that people can attend if they want to, if there's mobility issues. Exploring electronic virtual meetings as well for participation ease of participation from both members and from the public. So those options. Also, we have the decisions on the members of those committees and whether or not we set something in place, or like we said, we're breaking new ground on how members get decided. Right now, it's a review by the mayor and a recommendation to council. Well, maybe there's a different way to make that decision. I don't know what the answer is. I'm just throwing out different suggestions because, a question can be, why didn't this person get on the committee this time, but they were on it last time? They want to continue on. Well, new mayor, different decisions. Like that's the way it's been since before I was on council. So, so that's important there. And in terms of, so that's for that. Number 3. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I guess it would fall under number 3. Just a couple of comments when we talk about, I have no problem with guidelines of diversity on all committees versus requirements, because then we potentially tend to exclude very valuable members of the community who don't fit that criteria. So if there is nobody else that can support it, but we have to fill a position, we're excluding somebody. I don't think that's a proper process. We did reduce many of our committees over the last term. I think members of council used to sit on, were required to sit on, there's about 2 or 3 different committees that we no longer have representation on. So we have reduced the number of representation of council, and even I think the library board now we're down to 1 member of council already on that committee. I think the PRAC has 2 still, and I think planning is the only other one, but I think that's a requirement. So I think we have made a significant movement towards reducing the amount of committee work for council members. And then I'll throw the last one out in terms of term lengths. So I was doing some quick math. The average member of council served over the last 20 years of term is 5 years. So you're talking just over 1 term of council is the average of members of council. If I hear correctly from Councillor Deacon, the maximum potential for a council member to serve on a committee is 2 terms. Well, the average number of councillors on that stay longer is only for 5 years, so wouldn't even hit that threshold. I look at that potential, for someone who sat in the position for quite some time, for myself. Next term, I wouldn't be able to sit on a committee because I would have gone through so many committees over that time frame that I will have exhausted 2 years or 2 terms on every committee. So I don't know how again, if we're talking guideline versus requirement, then I'd be okay. But I don't think I would ever approve a black and white term limit for council members sitting on any committees. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
very much for everyone's feedback. I just have a couple of more points I wanted to add. So in terms of item 2, the alternative methods for gathering resident feedback, when we're talking about the consultants coming in, I think it's a great idea. I think Councillor Deacon spoke to this around the making sure that we go to the committees, existing committee members, and make sure that we get feedback from them on that, because I think the consultants should be doing that. I also want to reemphasize the connection, certainly at the beginning, in terms of the strategic plan. I think every member of every committee should be aware of our strategic plan and should be familiar with it. I think that makes complete sense. And I also think that EGDEV piece has some value as well to look at in terms of looking at the committees and the potential feedback we're looking for. One of the things that that we kind of a little bit touched on, and I just wanted to elaborate a little bit more from my perspective, that duplication of effort in some of the committees on the terms of reference, and that's where I would really like staff to take a particular look at that. I sit on the Parks and Rec and now the Environmental Sustainability Advisory Committee, and I feel that we should be meeting together with these two committees. A lot of the stuff that we discuss in both committees is very much appropriate. So those two particular committees stand out to me as something that deserves to be looked at. They're both extremely important subject areas that we discuss, but on many occasions I wish I would have members of one committee at the other committee. As a matter of fact, we are discussing having a joint committee coming up this fall because of that. So I think to look for that kind of duplication, and I'm not sure how we address it to make sure that we're still getting the perspectives in these committees, but that's really kind of what we're looking for, feedback from staff when you look at it. So in terms of the terms, I know that Mayor Leroux had certainly spoke to me at the beginning of this particular term that he was looking at doing some changeover halfway through the term, this particular term. And in my previous term as a councillor, we hadn't done that. And so I think there is some value in doing that from a development perspective for councillors. I think it's important, and I think it's also good from a even from committee members as well. So I'm not sure what that right term is. Councillor Lauren brings up good points around that, but I think that there's an opportunity there to look at some best practices. What are other municipalities doing with their committees around that? I like the idea of fresh faces to bring fresh ideas, fresh perspectives, and that's this. I think it holds true for both members, resident members, and chair and vice chairs of the committees. So those would be my added points. Any other comments from members of council on this particular item? Monsieur Godin, did we give you kind of enough material? Any questions for clarifications?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, so a lot of notes, a lot to go through, but I think the direction is pretty clear as far as reevaluating our committees and how they work, and we'll work through our notes and prepare something for council.
Thank you very much. All right, so that concludes our strategic discussion. We'll move to item 22, closed session. So pursuant to section 239(2), 3 and 3.1 of the Municipal Act 2001, SO 2001, Chapter 5, motion to move into closed session at the hour of 8:25 to address matters pertaining to section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001, SO 2001, Chapter 5, to consider matters relating to 1, sale of land in the 417 Industrial Park, report CS 2024-10, and 2, closed session minutes, regular council meeting dated June 10th and June 24th, 2024. All right, I need a mover. Moved by Councillor Lauren, seconded by Councillor Deakin to go into closed session. All in favor? All right, so we are now in closed session. Thank you very much. We will just close the doors and we will open them back as soon as we're out of closed session.